everyone, it's Sean from What Up, and welcome back to another video. I'm joined with very special guest Michaela, the real deal IEL from Twitter of Time, and we're here to do your Parents Guide for episode 6. Now, just a reminder, our Parents Guide are split into two different sections. The first one is completely spoiler-free, so if you haven't seen the episode, you can absolutely watch the first half of this video without being spoiled for anything. We're just going to give general comments on what you may see in the show, and you can make your own decisions at that point, whether you'd like your children to watch or not. And then we hit the spoiler section. I'll give you folks a spoiler warning, and we'll talk in depth about those scenes and a little bit about other tidbits of the episode. All right, so Michaela, episode 6. This one was, I would say, probably the tamest of all the episodes, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, totally agree. I don't think I skipped anything with my kids anyways. And there was definitely nothing in this episode that hasn't been done before in terms of rating system, I guess you could say. The one thing we had talked about discussing was a sex scene, but if you were okay with the Rand and Egwene in episode 1, I think you'll be fine with this. It's really no more explicit than that first sex scene was.
Yeah, it was implied, and before anything happened at all, it was just smashed to black, and you went to a different scene. There was a little bit of nudity at one point during the episode. There were a couple women topless, but I mean, you'd have to pause it really to see it, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Not at all gratuitous. And I actually really appreciated how the nudity was done, and that it wasn't like zooming in and honing in on the particular body parts of the women and on the breasts. It was just, oh, these women are naked, and that's fine.
It was in I think it was in a bathhouse, and it was just played off as completely natural, which it would have been in that sort of setting, and it was just part of the scene.
At least from my perspective as a parent, I have no issues whatsoever with nudity because a body is a body. I know not everybody agrees, but I think if you're going to do nudity, I'd much rather see it in this type of setting normalized than in something like Game of Thrones, where somebody is either being
bad things
or right.
And the last thing I want to say about this episode, I think, and I believe this is the last even questionable scene, is there is a scene where it's a little frightening, I would say. It's a scene to do with One Power and a couple of characters. It's not horrifying, it's not a jump scare, but the implications of what's happening could be seen as scary, I guess, to small children.
Yes, I think if you're creeped out by Shadar Logoth, if you're creeped out by any of the things that happened in episode 2, think of this as a bit of a continuation of those elements. I think this will creep you out or creep your kids out as well.
All right, awesome. So that's basically our spoiler-free section. Well, we're going to talk about these scenes a little more in depth now. So if you hadn't seen the episode yet, time to dip out and go do something else. So spoiler warning. We're now going to talk about episode 6, these scenes in detail. So if you haven't seen episode 6 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show, that is currently airing the finale shortly, be forewarned, we're going to ruin elements of that show. All right, so now we're in the spoiler section of the video, so we can talk about these scenes in depth. The first one we'll talk about is the bathhouse scene. I guess there's not much to say, really. Moiraine is there, and she meets Magdan, and they basically further the plot by talking about ships from the West and different things that are going on. All very normalized, not sexualized in any way, shape, or form, at least in my opinion, anyway.
No.
And very brief. Like, if you blink, you miss it, I think.
I didn't even see the boobs the first time that I watched it. It wasn't actually until I logged onto Twitter and there were screen captions of the boobs. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they did that. And also, who cares? I mean, people have boobs. They exist. I really don't think it was a big deal at all. It's definitely not something I would even consider fast forwarding through for me personally with my girls. Yeah. I don't even know, and I can't wrap my head around anyone who had an issue with that scene. And I know there were a very vocal minority. Ridiculous.
The ones with the screen caps, actually, believe it or not.
Right. Great honesty.
That's right. So the second scene we're going to talk about is the implied sex scene, I guess. It's between Moiraine and Swan. There's not really much to talk about there. There's some kissing. There's some intimacy. That's about it. It smashes to black and cuts away long before anything happens.
On your knees, which, like, ooh, that's a little sexy, but I mean, who cares, you know? Yeah. Not a big deal.
Implied that maybe she's the boss in private situations, because Swan's the boss in public, kind of like the sea folk. That's what they do.
Right.
Maybe Swan's the sea folk in the show.
Maybe. I was actually wondering the same, if they were going to kind of mesh those two cultures, but...
Oh, we'll see. But yeah, no, pretty tame. Again, nothing like Game of Thrones. There's nothing gratuitous.
God, no.
Implied more as intimacy and love than anything else. Which is
absolutely.
awesome.
And actually very well done. I bought it. I thought it was a really great acting job done by both actresses. They were phenomenal. And I definitely bought that they were in love. I thought those scenes were very well done, very respectfully done. I liked them a lot.
Yeah, it was super cool. And the last scene, the frightening scene we talked about, and again, this is we're skirting the line whether it could be frightening or not. At least in my opinion, was when Maureen killed Matt. It was okay. It reminded me a little bit of The Exorcist, just a smidge, with Matt kind of thrashing around and screaming with his mouth open and the darkness pouring out and stuff. So I guess that could be frightening, but
like I said, I think if you were creeped out by anything to do with Shadar Lagoth and anything really with Matt's arc up until this point, I think, you'll continue to be weirded out. And it doesn't really look like the darkness in Matt is going anywhere, which is interesting.
Yeah,
it's an interesting.
But again, Maureen only sort of half healed him in the Eye of the World in Camelin, so
true, yeah.
There's those people that say, well, she healed him completely and need a circle of 13. Well, I don't think it's done yet.
Yeah.
All right, so that's pretty much everything we have for episode 6. Let me know in the comments down below what you focused on in the episode, if you liked it or not. I know that there were a lot of people who thoroughly enjoyed the episode, and there were quite a few people who did not like it at all either. There were very few people in the middle. So let me know what you folks think. All right, thank you so much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.